Whatever camera you use, whichever location you visit, one element is needed to make successful images, and that is composition. You can be in the most perfect place, with the most epic of lighting, but get composition wrong and you'll have wasted a golden opportunity. For this video, I travelled to the northeast coast to the photogenic St Mary's Lighthouse, so I could capture images at sunrise which will showcase and demonstrate 5 compositional techniques that should help add a sense of structure and balance to your frames. If you've been using the camera for a while, you may have already heard of the rule of thirds. It's a tried and tested compositional aid, and this is how it works. Imagine you divide up your frame into 9 equal parts, split by 2 equally spaced horizontal and vertical lines. The rule of thirds dictates that you place subjects at one of these intersecting points. In my case, the most obvious focal point is of course that beautiful lighthouse, so it made absolute sense to place this on the intersecting third. I was able to use the rule of thirds with both landscape and portrait format setups. One of the benefits of the rule of thirds is that it helps important subjects stand out and adds structure to the scene. Rules, we know, however, are sometimes meant to be broken, so let's explore some other compositional techniques. Negative space is a technique a lot of photographers use if they know the image will then be used in media such as magazines or newspapers. In these frames, there are large areas of empty space, such as large swathes of sky or foreground that, in essence, ignore the main subject to a degree. There is method behind this approach, however, because that negative space serves an important role. Leaving negative space gives magazine designers important areas to fit in headlines and copy that will stand out to the readers. This technique is well worth considering if you wish to approach picture editors with your photos and try and sell them on. Now, as the name suggests, with symmetrical composition, the 2 halves of the image are framed to be mirror images of each other. In my case, the ability to use a symmetrical approach was helped by the fact that the tide around St Mary's had receded and left pools of water, which I could then use to create a reflection of the scene. Symmetrical images bring a real sense of balance and peacefulness to the frame, as opposed to more chaotic compositions where there is so much going on. Remember, one thing that will help you frame up the scene perfectly is to use the live view feature on your camera so you can see the scene on a larger LCD rather than the smaller viewfinder. When photographers work on their composition, they often focus on the main subject, and this neglects the rest of the scene. If you can, take a moment to remember the foreground interest at the front of the frame. If you can make more of this area, then you increase the whole value of the photo, giving the viewer more to look at and more to think about. In my case, I had a number of elements to use as foreground interest, be it the seaweed covered rocks or the freshly made sand patterns created by that receding tide. Lastly, let's finish up by talking about leading lines. This is a very effective compositional technique and works by the photographer using elements such as fence lines, walls, paths and other elements to draw the viewer's eye towards a specific point of interest. Again, in my case, I used a couple of different options. Firstly, I used the causeway to lead the viewer's eyes towards the lighthouse, first from ground level and then from an aerial angle by using my drone. Secondly, I moved a little further back and used a handrail that curved through the frame to direct the viewer's eye. So, let's look back at the 5 compositional techniques we've covered to help you improve the framing in your photos. There's the rule of thirds, negative space, symmetry, foreground interest, and leading lines. See if you can use some of these techniques when you're next out with the camera, and I'll see you next time.